Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Chiara Profena. Together, we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And this week, we are heading deep into southern Oregon to one of the most iconic and breathtaking spots in the entire Pacific Northwest, Crater Lake National Park.
That's right. We're talking about Crater Lake's boat tours to Wizard Island in particular, a one-of-a-kind experience that's only available during the summer. But here's the catch. After this season, the tours won't return until roughly 2029. That's because the only access point to the lake, the Cleetwood Cove Trail and Marina, is closing for several years of major renovations starting in 2026.
So joining us today to talk about what it's like to experience one of those final boat days on the water is Janet Eastman, features reporter for the Oregonian, Oregon Live, who recently took a boat excursion out to Wizard Island just before the closure. So Janet, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Thanks for being here to chat about your experience. We kind of just wanted to hop in, and you've mentioned that you've been to Crater Lake before. Is that right?
Correct. I go about 5 times a year to hike different trails, but I've never been on the shore or in the water.
I feel like it's one of those classic things that like a lot of tourists come here specifically to do like the boat tour. But if you go so often as you do living down there in Ashland, I imagine it's one of those things that's like, well, I'll get to that one of these days. But it sounds like one of those days finally came for you at the end of this season. Was the closure, did that spur you to kind of want to do this boat tour?
Well, that did, but also a hiker I admire told me that she went on the boat tour and completely was transformed to see the cliffs from the water level looking up. She said was completely different. And so that interested me. And then I thought, well, I'll try my, roulette, my luck to see if I can jump on the website and 24 hours in advance, try to get some of, the seats that they saved reserved instead of selling them all in advance.
And so being out there on the water, I'm sure that's a very cool sight and thing to experience. Had you ever been in Crater Lake in the water before, or was this kind of your first time being on the water, in the water, touching the water?
Oh, it's a good question. All the times I've hiked, I've never gone down that trail that takes you to the shore. It's the only safe access point, but it's the Cleetwood Cove Trail, and they're closing that because it's really treacherous. It's only a mile, but it's a 700-foot incline. So it's almost like you're not as bad, but it's almost like you're walking up stairs for a mile. It's that kind of elevation. So you walk down easily, go on a boat ride, and then when you're kind of wet and tired and euphoric, then you have to face this very steep incline going back up to the rim. So I had never done it before, and now I have to wait for 3 years to do it again.
The tour, these boat tours are offered through the private concessionaire there, Exploris, who's now there at Crater Lake. And I know there's been some issues. There's some controversy in the last couple of years around it's so hard to book a tour. It's hard to get in touch with anybody. So let's just start with what your experience was like booking a tour. I know you said that you did that, tried to try your luck in that 24-hour window for those last minute tickets. How did you go about getting those tickets?
So I did it as everybody else does, is that I wanted the 9:45 a.m. 5-hour boat ride that included 3 hours on Wizard Island. You have 3 different choices. You can just do a 2-hour boat ride that's narrated around the lake, which is very good. You could do it where you just take a shuttle to Wizard Island and stay there for 4 hours, or the combination, which is what I wanted, which was 5 hours with 3 of those hours on Wizard Island, free to explore. So that was only offered twice a day. So on Monday, I wanted to get the Tuesday ticket for 9:45 a.m. So I kind of practiced, and I got on there and I got 2 tickets, and then I went through the process and I hit submit, and it said, one of your products is not available. And I thought, no, I have to get this ticket. So I hit submit again and it repeated that. And then I said, no, I need to get this ticket. And then I pushed submit for the third time. It said, confirmed, you have 2 tickets. So, so don't give up, and just keep trying. I do this even with concert tickets. I figured I'm not going to back out and get in the back of the line. So anyways, so I did get them, and was really happy about that because I did want to write this story. And but there was no support. Like if you wanted to call them, you're on on hold for like 45 minutes and things like that. And by then the tickets are literally gone. So.
And this was during basically what was the last week of these boat tours being offered?
Correct. So it ended September 14th. So this was the start of it. So September 8th is when I was able to get a ticket for the next day, September 9th.
What is the cost like for these tickets?
I thought it was a great deal. It was $60 a person. I think $42 if you're a child. And there's like 45 people on the boat. It's an open air boat, and you take what comes. And I pretty much got every weather condition on that day. And we didn't get lightning strikes, where the day before there were. And so they drilled us on what to do if we had to evacuate or hunker in place on Wizard Island. And as a journalist, I was kind of hoping that we'd have to do that because it would add to the story. But we didn't, and it was still a full, beautiful day with lots of interaction with people who were so excited to be there.
Yeah, your story had a little bit of drama in the start of it. That's what I love about it. You've got some people who were running late to the boat and holding up the start. Is that right?
It was, and they're really clear about, you have to be at the trail, at the marina an hour in advance. That's a little bit much, but it does take 45 minutes to get from the rim to the marina. And then you also have to park, and that some people have to end up in overflow parking. And then you also have to get through the gate. If somebody's at the gate, it could be 45 minutes. And I live 90 miles away. So I left it in the dark. And I was all so concerned that I would miss this boat. It didn't happen, but right when we were all in the boat, there were 5 open seats. And the boat captain said, we leave exactly on time. They were always really clear about that. We were going to leave at 9:45. And he said, whether the people show up or not. All of a sudden, 4 people came. They were running down the trail, and they came on the dock, and they said they were waiting for their brother, Jeremy. That's his name. And they were saying that he was right behind them. And the boat captain said, listen, you guys have to decide if you're getting on the boat or staying here, and we'll leave you behind and you can wait for Jeremy. And you could just see in their face, well, Jeremy is our older brother who brought us here. We don't want to leave him behind. And then right then, somebody from the boat pointed to the trail, and they saw somebody kind of, struggling, stumbling, trying to get down that trail. And somebody says, there's Jeremy. So we were all rooting for him. And I later learned out that he had broken a knee a year before. So even though he's in his 20s, he was kind of a little bit disabled, but he got there right on time. Everybody cheered. The family, the siblings all got on the boat. And what I loved about them is they came from San Jose. They wanted to be on this boat, and they did everything conceivable. They hiked up like I did to the summit of Wizard Island. They went down into the cone. They were taking pictures. And then when we got back to the dock, they jumped into the water. The water's 50 degrees. And admire people who are willing to do that. I chose not to.
It's a fair decision. It sounds like a lot. Um, so this group that you were in, was it like a pretty small cohort of people on your boat?
Yeah, there were 46 of us, as I remember, and then we had an interpretive guide, and that person was really interesting because I said, "Well, this is going to close, for 3 years," and she said, "Oh, so you're saying I don't have job security?" I later learned that it's kind of like 3 months of the year they do this, so. But I learned so much about the history of Crater Lake, the importance to the Klamath tribes, uh, the idea that they stop and they'll fill up your water bottle from that water because it's so pristine. The mysteries were kind of solved. And again, like I was saying, you're looking up these cliffs. And so, like the pumice castle, that looks kind of like a medieval castle, you just see it in such a different kind of magical way looking up at
Mm.
it. And then everybody likes to see Phantom Ship, and sometimes it's from the rim, it's kind of shaded in clouds. We got to go around it very slowly,
Mm.
and that was spectacular.
Wow, it's such a different experience. Like, I mean, these formations, these rock formations you're talking about, like I know them from driving around Crater Lake. You stop at the Phantom Ship Overlook or the Pumice Castle Overlook, and it's so interesting to get just a different angle on them. I mean, it's so it reminds me of like going around Mount Hood. You think you know what Mount Hood looks like until you go to like a certain angle of it, and you're like, that's a totally different feature. So getting this look at Crater Lake that's so different. I mean, what a cool experience that is.
It truly was a different experience than anything I've ever had.
And you were on kind of one of these last tours that was being offered. What was it like? What was the atmosphere of this tour? I mean, it must have been a little bit different since it was one of the last ones being offered for 3 years, roughly.
You're right. There was kind of a frenzy and excitement, and everybody knew that this was their chance. There was a family from Seattle who drove down, and if they could only, there were four of them, if they could only get two tickets, they had decided which two of the family could go. And it was like everybody knew it was limited. And they were going to have to take their chances. And then there was a couple in front of me in the line, and they knew nothing about it. They were from, a different state, and they had bought their tickets months in advance, not knowing any of this, countdown uh, urgency. And it was interesting hearing from people how they acquired their tickets.
What can you tell us about this closure? I know we talked a little bit about the fact that this is closing for a few years. They got to redo this trail, but what information did you learn through your reporting about what's going on here?
So I guess the Cleetwood Cove Trail and Marina need to be completely redone. The marina is there's no services there. There's kind of like a shack where you hook up with the tour operators, and there are these um, pit toilets that you don't need to know this, but I just don't use them. I feel like you lose a piece of your soul whenever you have to do that. So it is kind of treacherous, and the trail, like I explained, was so steep, and I hike 8 miles a day. I have no problem inclines, but this even winded me, and you could even see, really robust people kind of struggling with it just because it's a constant incline. It does, you have places to stop along the way and look at the scenery, but I was concerned about some people on our boat who didn't look like they were able to go very far on Wizard Island because of the rocks and things like that. And I didn't know how they were going to go uphill after a day of adventure. But everybody makes it. So, but that they want to improve, which is a good idea. And so it will be easier for people to traverse that trail. And when they get down to the marina, it should be a little less rustic.
So you said when you got to Wizard Island, you hiked to the top. What was that like?
That was pretty spectacular too, because we've always seen it. And it looks kind of almost like a little Lego piece or something. I mean, it looks so little, but when you're on it, you realize how tall it is, and you have all of the rocks right there, so you can kind of see how that cinder cone, had blown up. It's 763 feet high, I learned, and so you kind of do a switchback trail to get to the top, and there's kind of a concave at the top that you can walk down into. There are also some beautiful trees that are so iconic to Crater Lake. They're slowly dying, so they're white. And there's also rock crops, outcrops of rocks. And people were way up on that, and they were standing on the top with their arms spread open, just because you're really tall and it's top of the world kind of experience. And my friend who came with me took a picture of me at the bottom of one of these outcrops interviewing somebody. And I thought, yeah, that's my world, where I am talking to somebody, having just a joyous moment. Um, it explained geology to me, and just the mysteries and the magic of this lake that is always looks so pristine and calm, and yet there's so much churning around it that it just beckons you. I will never get tired of going to Crater Lake.
It's such a fascinating. I mean, speaking of like geology, the geological history of Crater Lake is always so interesting to me. I think it's something that people don't always grasp. You know, you have this like lake in this volcano, this ancient volcano that exploded. I mean, it's really quite dramatic when you look at like the geological history of it. Did you learn any more about that you could share with us?
Yes, and the interpretive guide was very good because she told it in a very kind of storytelling way. But it is just a stack of superlatives. Like, it's the largest lake, it's the most pristine lake, that they measured it like 200 years ago. It's like, isn't it 1900 feet? Help me on this. And then, but they kind of guesstimated it, and now with all the latest technology, they realized that they were actually very, very close to what it is. Um, and just the different ecosystems that are there. And again, if you go on any trail, you're going to see something different, maybe something different rocks. Uh, with my hiking group, we go during the winter and snowshoe, and it's a completely different landscape, different, iconic landmarks are highlighted in different ways. And like 2 weeks before I did this, we went to Mount Scott, and that's really a tall trail to get to. And I guess it's like 8,700 feet elevation. Please forgive me if I mess this up. But we hiked like 5 miles up and back there with like a 1,300-foot gain. And we got to the top, and then we had lightning strikes. So we scrambled down because we don't want to get hit by that. But I've really gone off topic, but there's so many different things to see at Crater Lake. I think you could live there for years and still discover something new.
Janet, your numbers are pretty much spot on, I will say. Crater Lake depth is 1,949 feet, and Mount Scott height is the elevation is 8,934 feet. So you're doing great.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Well, it sounds really exciting being able to get this boat tour as well and get kind of like your own little tour of the area. That sounds really fascinating.
Right, and to go in whatever way you wanted. When you're on Wizard Island, there are two different trails there. And then there's also some people just kind of hung out kind of in this building where the boat dock was, and some people went swimming the whole time. But what I liked about the boat trip, even if you don't stop on Wizard Island when they start offering those, they get in really close and they really want you to see the waterfalls. And there's something I'm sure you guys know about. I never knew of it. It's called Old Man of the Lake,
Yeah.
and it's this 30-foot tall tree trunk that moves around mysteriously.
Yeah. It's just like a big tree trunk that floats around Crater Lake, right?
Yeah, and it bobs
Yeah.
vertically. They said they saw it in 1896. And they said that they've tried to put a tracker on it and it just stops. It doesn't move and birds won't land on it. But there are supposedly ants living in it. And it just looks like this white tree trunk that's probably looks like 3 feet out of the water, but I guess it's 30 feet tall or long. And it's made out of hemlock. But that's what I liked. The interpretive guide would tell us all of these little ooh, like woo woo sort of things that are kind of unexplainable. But the old man of the lake, just bobbing around there.
I love the like mystery, the intrigue. I mean, even Wizard Island itself, the name is like it's got this sort of this intrigue to it that makes Crater Lake not just like a really cool thing to look at, but like I don't know I mean, being down there on the island, what was like the vibe like? What did it feel like to be on Wizard Island in the middle of Crater Lake?
It was pretty wonderful. And there was one young man I was interviewing, and he went there for the spiritual
Mm.
aspects of it. And I guess he goes around the world looking to, pick up different vibes and things like that. But he went down into the cone, and it's like 500 feet wide and 100 feet deep. So that's how he spent his time, his 3 hours there. Um, and I kind of like just taking pictures and interviewing people. And I love that it's the white bark pines that are just kind of dying from a tree disease, but they look sculptural.
Hmm.
They're twisted from the wind and they're curving and the leaves are gone, so it almost looks like these white sculptures. So that was interesting to me. Just the fact that we were, walking over these, pieces of rock that had just exploded, but wherever you look, you saw the water, which is always kind of a purpley blue to me.
Hmm.
So I loved it. I want it to reopen. I want to fast forward to 3 years in the future and bring all of my friends and my family and just say, you will never see Crater Lake the same once you've seen it looking up.
And maybe for the people that are gonna have to take a little bit of a wait, like you are, to get back out there. What else is there to do while this closure is happening? What can people get up to?
It's so important you mentioned that because the Crater Lake is open. So they've been doing some construction projects, and those have closed some of the rim road, and that some of the rim road will close around November 1st when there's too much snow
Hmm.
that it's impassable. But Crater Lake is open year round, and some of the services get a little quieter during winter. But I go year round because it's completely different. I mean, you're seeing different in the seasons. You're seeing, of course, the snow. You're seeing the fall leaves. I love the lichen on the trees. And I learned on this tour that lichen is an indication of excellent air quality.
Hmm.
So when we're walking around and we see lichen in any of our forests, we have to say, okay, breathe deeply because it's okay. Um, so yes, Crater Lake is there. You can't access the shore. You can't go into the water in any way after November 1st. So you still have a little bit of time. You have a month. Um, but year round, it offers just wonders that I think just enchant people of all ages.
I think I've only been, I think, twice in my life, but it's always so amazing to lay your eyes on that water. I think, like you said, Janet, that the color of it is really like unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's like Crater Lake blue. It needs to be the Crayola color.
That's good.
But I mean, even if you just drive out there and go to Rim Village, which is sort of the main area with the shops and restaurants and Crater Lake Lodge, or you're snowshoeing, or, I love it in the fall up there. It's just a great spot to just go. I feel like, if you're in Oregon, you're in the Northwest, you've got to see it at least once. You've got to make a trip out there to check it out.
You're right. It really is a treasure. And, when my dad would go there, he would sit in the rocking chair, the lodge, just looking out. And then I've taken my grandson and we've snowshoed. And I remember one time I took my son and daughter-in-law who live in California. And the ranger told us when we were snowshoeing that we were 30 feet above a garage. So it just blows your mind, Again, superlatives. And whatever your interest is, if it's nature or, geology, topography, ancestral lands, the story is told visually to you in Crater Lake.
Well, it sounds like a really awesome experience, regardless of if the trail is open or not. So people should still go check it out for sure.
Yeah, we should ask, we're recording this in the middle of the government shutdown. And, so perhaps by the time this comes out, this is irrelevant, but, I guess regardless, whenever there is a government shutdown, do you know how this is affecting Crater Lake? Can people still go out there, see this stuff during the shutdown?
Yes, and I checked in with people I know who went this weekend, and they said it was tourist central and lovely. There was no one at the gate, so you don't have that 45-minute slowdown or have to show your pass or pay to get in. The restrooms were clean and working. The gift shop was open. And again, around November 1st is when, one side of the rim will close down because of snow loads. But it's open year-round. There's something to see, to take a picture of. It is the most photographic place in the world, and I think, and because it's so astounding what it looks like in person, and then our cameras are able to capture it pretty well. So it's worth it to take the time if you're traveling around Oregon. People from all over the world, wait a year to get here and to see it, and it's really something to be proud of, that it's here in Oregon, that it's so accessible, that it is natural, and yet it's the best show you'll ever see because it's forever changing.
I love that.
That's so good. Well, Janet, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and tell us all about this. I'm excited to go on a boat tour just like you in a couple of years when we can do it again. You've really convinced me that's the way to go.
Okay. Well, somebody convinced me, and I'm glad I listened to her. So,
well, folks, that will do it for us for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show, and if you want to support this podcast as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find the details at OregonLive.com/subscribe. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me alongside Jamie Hale, Teresa Mahoney, and Vicky Connor.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.